Hello and welcome. You're watching Energy and You, a weekly show that brings you developments in the energy space, especially Nigeria's oil and gas sector, with a focus on Nigeria's national petroleum company, NNPC Limited. On our show today, we'll bring you up to date with developments in Nigeria's downstream sector, with a focus on its retail business, plus laser strides by NNPC Limited in developing its gas infrastructure and the company's intervention in resolving a major industrial dispute. All these and much more on this episode. I'm Erusa Igumbo, and you're watching Energy and You. Well, thanks for joining us. Let's kick off the show with the top stories making the headlines in the energy sector this week. New global data has shown Nigeria dominates the upcoming projects landscape in Africa and accounts for 23% of the total projects expected to begin operations by 2027. Africa as a whole is expected to witness 492 projects commencing operations between 2023 and 2027. Of these, midstream projects top the list with 162. Upstream projects will total 139, refinery projects will total 77, and petrochemicals 144. Reports indicate oil prices will pick up pace towards $90 a barrel over the course of this year as production cuts by the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries and allies, as well as rebounding China demand. A survey of 40 economists and analysts forecast Brent crude would average $87.12 a barrel in 2023, up from current levels of around $78. The global benchmark has averaged around $82 per barrel so far this year. U.S. Gulf oil and gas output is expected to jump 17% to a record 2.6 million barrels of oil equivalent per day by 2025. That's up from about 2.2 million barrels this year, before it begins declining. The gain reflects a flurry of new platforms from Shell, British Petroleum, Chevron, and others, budgeted before the pandemic hit global demand and made companies reduce investments. And those are the top stories making the rounds in the energy space this week. For non-players in the oil and gas industry, we get confused with the terms upstream and downstream in the oil and gas business. Well, while upstream is the chain of activities, that's including exploration, geological surveys, production activities, offshore and onshore drilling, and much more, downstream can be referred to as the entire processes and operations, including refining and distribution that occurs after the production phase to the point of sale. Now, talking about sales of refined petroleum products, today on the show, we have NNPC Limited's Executive Vice President Downstream, Engineer Adeyemi Adetunji, to discuss recent expansions in its retail business. Thank you very much, Engineer, for joining me on the show.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Now, the group CEO, had tagged this year as one of capacity expansion. For you as Vice President of Downstream, what does this mean to you and your entire business unit?
Our directorate has 6 major entities there, business units. Starting with trading. We have consolidated all our trading activities, from all the hydrocarbons into the trading business, unlike before when they were in disparate business units. With that, we are also going to ensure that we do trading, in all segments. and develop capacity to be able to ensure that we maximize all the opportunities in trading. I go to shipping. NNPC as well, because of what you have to move, crude oil, gas, products, NNPC has to be much more present in the shipping business. So we have moved shipping now from a service entity to being a full-fledged company on its own, with the aspiration and the objectives to acquire vessels and to improve revenue of the business. We go to MPSC, the pipeline and storage company itself. We are going through all the activities to revamp the facilities, the depots, and the pipelines. We have the build, operate, and transfer scheme that is ongoing. We've also added 150 million liters capacity of PMS storage at the Atlas Cove terminal, which will be commissioned sometime very soon. We've also restored part of System 2B, and today the satellite depot in Ejigbo is back on stream and is on a regular basis doing about 70 to 100 trucks per day. If I go on to the refineries, which is also part of the downstream directorates, like we all know, the revamp of all three are now in top gear. Port Harcourt Refinery, Warri Refinery, and also Kaduna Refinery. They are all in top gear. We also have another business unit called NNPC Downstream Investment Services. Right. The whole idea of that is to ensure that we look at viable investments in downstream. So, for example, the Dangote investment that NNPC Limited made is managed from this division. Right. We're also looking at investments in some condensate refineries, co-location in Port Harcourt Refinery, and other several investments opportunities that come about. I go on to retail now as well, which is the connection between NNPC and Nigerian citizens and all people that live in the country. We also make sure that we similarly expand our footprints to give effect to the mandate that NNPC Retail should provide petroleum products at affordable prices to all Nigerians, and also make sure that they are available and accessible.
Well, interestingly, the company has witnessed noticeable expansion, particularly with the acquisition of OVH Energy downstream assets. Talk to us about this acquisition and how you hope to achieve the company's overall growth projections.
So the acquisition of the OVH assets, is in line with the mandate of the NNPC Retail when it was being formed. The whole idea was to ensure that Nigerians have access to petroleum products, like I said just now. And with that, the acquisition of the OVH assets with about 380 sites, NNPC Retail now has about 900 sites across the country for delivering petroleum product services to Nigerians. It also came with about 8 LPG filling plants to add to the existing ones that NNPC Retail has. Right. We also have 3 lubricating plants that are also in that acquisition, and 3 aviation depots that are there too. Also the LPG businesses of that have come. Now with that, we're able to intervene, and we're able to ensure that Nigerians do have that.
Now, what other plans, in terms of expansion, are you looking at for the year?
Majorly, we're looking at retail. Like I said, even within the year, even post the acquisition of assets of Wando, we have added 20 new sites, that's retail stations. So we also recently commissioned, in February this year, a standard station in Tarani, Kano. Also in Kaduna, Baranawa, area of Kaduna, we also did commission a new retail filling station just about 3 weeks ago. So all of these are what we're doing.
Now, it's one thing to expand, but then again, it's another thing to be able to manage this expansion. Talk to us about, the strategies that are in place, to be able to improve service delivery to retail stations.
We believe that innovation is very strategic, is very critical, to improving customer service. But before we do that, we know that with the new NNPC brand, we're going to change the culture, the approach to customer service, and how our attendants, being the connection, the forefront personnel that serve, Nigerians. So there's a whole lot of training that is going on with that. Of course, we have the new brands. We've rebranded all, our stations. We've not done yet, but we have gone very far there. We're also rebranding the staff, Training is ongoing, and we are going to ensure that we use also e-learning platforms. So again, like I said, technology is coming into place. In addition to that, we are looking at some other innovation, like we have now a new Fuels app. With the Fuels app, you can order for any petroleum products that NNPC Retail has in its kitty.
Interesting conversation, really, and I think that this is a very good place to end the conversation. Thank you very much indeed
Thank you very much.
joining on the show.
Thank you.
Well, I've been speaking to NNPC Limited's Executive Vice President Downstream Engineer at DME at Detunji. Now to other developments. As part of its efforts to provide affordable, clean and efficient energy globally, Nigerian National Petroleum Company has signed an MOU with Gola LNG Limited. The new partnership forged will enable NNPC Limited to develop the requisite gas infrastructure required to attain energy availability and sufficiency. Take a look.
In a brief ceremony, a memorandum of understanding on a joint project development on floating liquefied natural gas infrastructure was signed by the Group Chief Executive Officer of NNPC Limited, Mr. Mele Kiari, and the Managing Director of Gola LNG Limited, Mr. Carl Storbo. This agreement is geared towards providing new opportunities for the utilization of Nigeria's untapped, huge upstream gas resources.
We know that FLNG is the quickest exit for gas and the quickest to the market, and we're determined to do this. We have the resources, subsequently our teams will engage and see commitment around specific assets that will be available for this purpose. We will also agree with you the framework of how that facility can be put in place, having a handshake between the upstream and the midstream, and how best we can do this, and very optimistic that by end of May we should have a very concrete understanding to take practical steps towards making the investment.
And we're extremely excited to be here. We like the very action-focused and sort of fixed dates, nailing down specific opportunities, both from the upstream and the asset side. And hopefully we can have a very specific initial discussion for one unit with an opportunity for many more to come. We have currently put in place more than $300 million in long lead item orders for our third FLNG unit. And we would love to also see that one come to Nigeria, working with NNPC.
We see gas as our transition fuel. You are making history today to be part of that transition journey. We see this as a very, very important partnership, and we believe that it will be the beginning of better things to come.
The GCEO stated that NNPC is doing everything possible to deepen domestic gas utilization and enhance export because Nigeria has massive gas resources. For the GCEO, Nigeria has the gas and the world needs it. He said that NNPC Limited is committed to the floating LNG project as it keeps looking for opportunities to make available for everybody.
We are trying as much as possible to make sure that we monetize the gas. Initially, when we were exploring the hydrocarbon in this country, we pay much attention to oil and we never considered gas like it has a value. But now with the change in even environmental situation and with the push for reducing carbon footprint, gas has been considered as a transition fuel, and therefore NNPC is very open to any investor that will come and help in monetizing the gas.
The MOU signed with Gola LNG will accelerate the development of Nigeria's gas resources. Gola LNG brings to the partnership 50 years expertise and experience in the development of LNG facilities.
When we return, you'll find out how NNPC resolved a major industrial dispute with the capacity to cripple activities in the oil and gas industry. Stay with us.
What do we do at NNPC? Since inception as the National Oil Company of Nigeria, our mandate has been to serve the nation by regulating the oil and gas sector and meeting the energy needs of over 200 million people. Over the years, we have invested in tomorrow's leaders and contributed to the development of communities across the nation. We have grown a network of over 500 service stations. We are the driving force behind the constantly growing Nigerian economy. With an efficient distribution network servicing all parts of the country, we ensure the highest quality standards in our crude refining processes. Nigeria boasts of immense oil and gas reserves which we explore in commercial quantities, providing endless opportunities for economic development. As we drilled for oil, we discovered vast amounts of gas, up to 200 trillion scoop. By harnessing gas, we have reduced gas flaring and invested in liquefaction plants, shipping gas across the globe. Our energy footprint is remarkable. We supply gas to the domestic market for power generation, reaching all across Nigeria. Powering everything, anywhere, and everywhere. NNPC, energy for today, energy for tomorrow.
Welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching Energy and You. The Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited has again demonstrated its leadership role in the Nigerian oil and gas industry by ensuring the resolution of the recent industrial dispute between Mobil Producing Nigeria Unlimited and Pengasin. ExxonMobil staff had on April 13, 2023, embarked on strike action following the collapse of industrial relations negotiations. The strike action resulted in the disruption of production in the joint venture and deep water assets.
The intervention of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited was needed to avert the prolonged strike action that had begun to cripple activities in the oil and gas industry. The industrial action, which cuts across all Mobil Producing Nigeria Unlimited and Esso Exploration and Production Nigeria Limited facilities, led to the constraint of 300,000 barrels of oil production daily, as well as export activities, forcing Mobil to declare a force majeure across all their locations.
We are glad to announce that by God's grace, effective immediately, normalcy is going to be restored in all MPNU facilities in Nigeria. We thank the leadership of NNPC as led by Malam Kolo Kiare, FNP and OFRO, and also Mr. Balawunti for all the efforts they've put into this. The interaction has been intense in the last days and in the last weeks on how these issues could be resolved.
The national president also expressed his appreciation to the company's leadership for the timely intervention and assured that there would be no need to reach such points in the future.
We are glad that we are parting on a good note, and we will continuously do everything possible to ensure that normalcy return to the oil and gas industry across board so that we don't have any need to get to this kind of point again moving forward.
NNPC Limited led a tripartite meeting between the leadership of Mobil and Pengasin. The meeting holistically addressed the union's grievances and firm commitments were put in place to avoid a recurrence. The company's leadership also prevailed on Mobil and the union to make the much-needed compromise in the interest of all parties and the Federation. After a successful mediation, the company's leadership expressed relief at the amicable settlement. Mr. Balawunti, the Chief Upstream Investment Officer representing the GCEO, added that the issues raised will be handled and there are conscious efforts to ensure that industrial relations negotiations in the industry are stable.
This is indeed a win-win for all of us. The implication of this to Nigerians is that we will restore production of about 300,000 barrels. But not only that, we are able to come together to agree that going forward, we will address all the issue that has been raised. And not only address it, we also undertook that going forward, we will be very systematic in the way and manner we go about our industrial relation in strict compliance with all enabling laws and regulation.
With NNPC's mediation and attendant resolution of the conflict, Nigeria's crude oil production output is poised to show up to hit 1.8 million barrels of oil per day by the end of the year. Additionally, with the current sustained efforts at curbing production losses, Nigeria's crude oil production will provide significant economic benefits for the country and all stakeholders.
The role of regulation in the oil and gas sector cannot be overemphasized, and Nigeria's oil and gas sector is no exception. With the passage of the Petroleum Industry Act of 2021, Nigeria's upstream sector has recorded tremendous growth. At a session with a focus on pivoting upstream petroleum regulation and investments, participants shared opinions and strategies on the matter.
The discussion on regulations in Nigeria's oil and gas industry attracted delegates from a broad spectrum of global oil and gas communities, including industry professionals and the academia. To kick off discussions, the Commission Chief Executive of the Nigeria Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission highlights notable developments in the upstream sector with the passage of the Petroleum Industry Act.
On average, Nigeria had 17 active rigs in 2019, representing one of the highest counts on the African continent. As at then, Nigeria's average rig count declined to 11 in 2020, 7 in 2021, 10 in 2022, but recently grew to 24 in 2023. And the implication of this is that it's a signal to the fact that investment is gradually trickling into at least the Nigeria upstream sector. This is also a reflection, ladies and gentlemen, of investors' acceptance of effective implementation of the PIA.
As investments in the energy sector skew to favour renewable energy, Engineer Gbenga Komolafe added that the Commission has risen to the occasion with the establishment of the Energy Transition and Carbon Monetization Department. The department is saddled with the regulation of the oil and gas carbon market. The forum provided delegates a platform to exchange ideas on developments and expectations in the upstream sector post-PIA.
Collaboration is really key. So it's not all about churning out the regulations, but ensuring that they are co-created. And actually, to just bring it home, NNPC, we have the NUCOP, which is the Nigeria Upstream Commercialization, Nigeria Upstream Cost Optimization Program. And I will just re-echo a few words to actually establish the fact that the objective of NUCOP actually aligns with the focus regulatory areas for NEPRC. If you look and bring it home to drilling, for example, we have mechanisms in place within the framework of the NUCOP that will ensure that we drive efficiency, reduce footprints through, for example, vessel sharing, boat sharing, or even rig sharing as much as is practical.
Challenges, concerns and solutions were also brought to the fore.
Today, NNPC Limited is the explorer of last resort. We're there. What would it take to bring the shells, the mobiles? Regulation will play a very vital role. And I'm also of the school of thought that yes, regulation is very good. You could clearly see from the CCE's presentation, 20 years of not passing the Industry Act, we lost a lot. But then, if you want to enforce regulation, would you want to tight the noose around the necks of the investors? I beg to differ. I would think, yes, let's have regulation, but let's also provide those incentives.
So that's one aspect. The other aspect, of course, what is the quality of the regulatory system? What's the quality of the laws? How do we ensure that we can actually take effective security, right, over assets when we lend to you? What's the process? How quickly can we expect that if we put in a securitization process or security process over this debt, there'll be an approval? Okay, so what's the quality of that process? That's really an issue of concern today.
For Dr. Yetunde Aladeitan, a senior lecturer at the University of Abuja, divestment from fossil fuels offers Nigeria a huge opportunity to strengthen capacity development in the energy mix.
You can't really talk of emerging technologies without talking of manpower, because you need manpower to drive this, technology. I'm a lecturer, and I would always, talk about education. Education is very key. We need a lot of research and development in that aspect, and we also know that from some schools abroad, they have actually stopped doing some courses like petroleum engineering, and so we could, grab the opportunity, get the professors to come to Nigeria to train our students, to train the trainers, the lecturers, so that they are able to, transfer this technology. So yes, technology is very key in driving the landscape, which is the energy mix in this perspective.
The panel also addressed steps towards achieving a more secure national energy supply.
Well, that's all on Energy and You this week. Follow us on our social media handles showing on your screen for information, comments, and suggestions. I'm Egosa Igumbo. Join us again next week for another interesting episode. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.